We have already seen the.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Shall I proceed?
Yes, yes.
Okay. We have already seen the inner psychological world. That is the happening part. All the emotions, thought happens on its own. We have not created any emotion. We have not created any thought. It happens on its own. That is the inner and psychological world. In the externally, we have many work, many duties. For that, we have to attend our duty, attend our work consciously, willfully, and deliberately. So that is the external world, the physical world. In the psychological world, mostly everything happens on its own. According to the circumstances, according to the state we are facing, some natural emotion happens on its own, natural thought happens on its own. That is in the psychological world. So in the psychological world, every happenings, every occurrences is moment by moment new. There cannot be any old. It may be similar to the earlier experiences, similar to the earlier emotions, but at the same time, each and every moment, it is new. It is original. It is natural. The circumstances, according to the emotion, take some thought in our hand and work, we plan, we think a lot, we decide, and we carry on our work in the external world. So here we invent or we observe some flowing nature. So the flowing nature is very essential. If the flowing nature is there, we can make everything new. We can keep everything alive and natural and new. So the flowing nature is very much important. And it is described in all religion, all spiritual world. It is in the name of liberation, freedom. It is described like that. So the flowing nature is described as liberation or freedom. So what is the nature of this freedom? What is this nature of this liberation? What is this nature of flowing? Where it happens, whether it is in the psychological or the inner world, or it relates to the external physical world. What is the actual status of liberation? What is the actual state of flowing? Whether it belongs to the psychological world or the inner world, or it belongs to the physical and external world. And what is the nature of flowing? What is the nature of liberation? What is the nature of freedom? On this line, we can discuss today. And so now I am sharing my idea on this point of view. So here, what we are going to see, The first thing is that the psychological world and the physical world. In the psychological world, many things happens. Moment by moment, some emotion, thoughts, feeling, something happens frequently, continuously on its own. We have no control over it. That without our knowledge, without our intention, many things happens one by one. But in the second part, we adopt some emotion, some thought for our external use, external action. For example, if we do some meditation or anything, some good emotion comes, good feeling comes. So if anything comes, what we are naturally do is that we want to keep some good emotion permanently with us. Actually, that is the real problem. So whatever comes must go. So that is the rule of liberation. That is the rule of freedom. Whatever comes, that has to go. In what way it appears, that way it has to disappear. Then only it is normal, then only it is natural, then only it is healthy. So if you want to catch hold of any emotion in the name of good thing or in the interesting thing, then only the problem starts. So here in the psychological world, everything must be momentary. For example, we may have some pain, psychological pain or anything. It comes and goes naturally. For example, we have some fear in our mind. We can take the fear and we can make use of the fear to the external world according to the situation. For the time being, it may give some energy for our action. Good emotion, bad emotion, everything, we can make use of that. But such use must be also in a momentary way. We should not keep anything. We can take and use. Moment by moment, we can make anything we can take, and in the next moment we have to give up. So taking and giving up must be natural, and it must be as early as possible. If you try to capture anything, if we try to keep hold of anything, whether it may be a good thing or bad thing, whether it may be a good emotion or bad emotion, the keeping hold of something alone is the problem. So anything we can take and we can make use of that emotion. But the next moment we have to be free from the emotion, free from the thought or anything. So we have to keep on in the flow. The flowing nature is very much necessary. But in the psychological world, the flowing nature is natural. We need not make it flow. It is already in the flowing nature. Our support is not necessary in the psychological world, in the happening world. Everything happens moment by moment. But only in the physical world alone, in the second part alone, we try to capture something. We like to keep holding of something in the name of good thing or in the name of some enjoyment or anything interesting or anything. We try to keep something with ourselves. We can have a permanent action. Action may be permanent. But before enter into some action, some emotion is required. Some feeling is required. And the feeling and emotion comes from the first part. And in the second part, we make use of that. But in the second part itself, as we have to take any emotion or any thought as an energy, then only we can have some energy to act in the external world. For that, we can make use of anything. But in the next moment itself, we have to free from the energy, free from the emotion, free from the thought. So in the second part has to, even though it has to continuously work in the external world, it has to free from the psychological clutches of keeping any emotion or thought with ourselves. So then only the freedom will happen. The liberation will happen. In the first part, it is the liberation and emotion is already there. The freedom is already there. In the second part alone, we feel some stagnation. We feel some weight. So we feel we are caught hold of something. We are captured by something. So we have to understand that in the second part itself, we have to make ourselves free moment by moment. Then only the freedom start from the first part or the psychological part will come to the second part also. In the living part, that in the external world alone, we cannot separate our, we cannot free from the second part. The second part we have to take in our hand. So in the second part itself, we have to have our freedom, we have to have our liberation. Then only we can feel we are all right. So if we think that we will be happy always, we will be in a good mood because of our meditation, because of our thinking or anything. If we think we are all right in the in the physical world itself, in the second part of the world itself, for the time being it may be like that. But in course of time, it is a bondage. So as far as possible, as early as possible, we have to keep ourselves free from all the clutches. Even though clutches comes from the psychological world, we take the clutches for the external use, but as early as possible, we have to free from the clutches. Then only we will be free, we will be in liberation in the physical world, in the external world also.
Can I ask a question?